Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. In this video we're going to be covering Hotwire again, and in this video we're going to be making a search filter, this quick accordion thing, and then we're also going to be making it so that we can edit a post without changing the page. But the main thing of the video is going to be this search filter, so we can search, and then as you can see it automatically shows what we're searching for, and so it shows the posts that have the same letters as the search. Pretty intuitive. So let's go ahead and start building this. So I'm going to create a new Rails project. I'm going to call it Hotwire 4. Then I'm going to cd into Hotwire 4. And we're going to create a new scaffold called Rails G scaffold. We're going to call it fruits. And then we're going to give it one attribute called title. Hit enter on that command. It's going to create a scaffold. And then we're going to migrate this data into the database so we can play with it. So run Rails db migrate. Hit enter. Then after that we need to open it up in Visual Studio Code, so do code dot to open up in Visual Studio Code, and then we're going to run Rails S, and then what we're going to do is go to Visual Studio Code, and we're actually going to go to roots.rb, and we're just going to route to fruits hashtag index. Then we're going to go to app views fruits index.html.erb, and inside of here what we're going to do is create a new form. So we want the form to be on this page so that we can actually search for the fruits. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to create a new form. So I'm going to say form underscore with. We're going to say URL is going to go to the fruits path. That's like the index page. Fruits underscore path. The method is going to be get. We want to get data. And then inside of here we're going to put some stuff. So we're going to say the data is going to be, the controller we're going to go to is search, which is a new controller, a new stimulus controller we're going to make, and then the search delay value is going to be 300 milliseconds. So every 300 milliseconds we're going to, if the user has inputted, we're going to input something. We're going to submit the form. The turbo frame is going to be called fruits, and then that's good for that. And then we're going to say local true do, and then after this we can add an end tag. And then inside here we just need to add the actual search input. So we're going to say label underscore tag, we're going to call it query, and we're going to say search for fruits. Then what we're going to do is add the actual search bar itself. So that's called text underscore field underscore tag, and we're going to say query, and then we're going to say params is the query. So whenever you're searching it's usually called query, that's the attribute. And then we're going to add a comma after that, and we need to add a placeholder. So the placeholder is going to be search fruits by name, that's fine. And then the data is going to be action input. It's going to be action input. So on input we need to search hashtag submit form. So that's going to be our method in their stimulus controller. So essentially we have our form here with one input, and when we input anything every 300 milliseconds it's going to go to our new JavaScript controller, and it's going to run this method submit form, including this attribute called query, and then in the form, in the controller, we're going to see what we need to do there. So that's good, but there's just one more thing that we want to do, and that is create a turbo underscore frame underscore tag, and we're going to say fruits, and then we're going to say do, and then end. Then inside of here we're just going to say render partial, which is a new partial we're going to create. We're going to call it fruits underscore list, and then we're going to say locals fruits is going to be equal to @fruits. So now that we have all that, I think we're done in this place, in this index.html.erb file. We're going to go to JavaScript controllers, and then inside of here we're going to create a new controller, and we're going to call it search underscore controller .js. We can just copy from here, we can just copy this, so we have this, and then in search controller.js what we need to do is, first of all, we need to actually set some values. So at the top here, let's say static values, and we're going to say delay number. Then in the connect, what we're going to do is we're going to say this.timeout is equal to null. And then after that, we're going to actually create our method or our function, and we're going to say submit form, and we're going to say clear timeout this.timeout. This.timeout is equal to set timeout. Then GitHub Copilot finishes the rest pretty much. So, and we need to say that the delay value is going to be 300 because we don't want people to blow up our app. So there's a 300 millisecond debounce by default. And then yeah, that's it for this controller. We need to save this file, and then we need to go to the controllers, go to fruits controller, and we need to add some data into the index so we can actually receive the query. So at the top here where it says index, we need to add @fruits is equal to if params query dot present, and then basically we need to say fruit dot where lower, and then it's adding the Postgres one, but we don't want that. So inside of here we're going to need to say, let me just full screen this. So we need to say fruit dot where lower title, so we're just going to lowercase the title like, and then we need to say param query downcase, so we're going to downcase that. And then if we don't have the query and the query is not present, we're just going to say fruit is equal to fruit.all. Then after that we're going to say respond to do format.html, yes, and then we need to say format.turbostream because we're going to respond with the turbo stream. So we're going to say format.turbo_stream do, and then inside of here we need to say render partial fruits/fruits_list, and then the locals we need to pass in the fruits variable. So with all that done, now we can just go to our application, see what it's looking like. This is the old app that I just built, and then now we can go here, and I think what we need to do is go to our routes.rb and make sure this is saved. And then now we're obviously missing that partial, so we need to go and create that. So we need to go to fruits, and then we need to say create a new partial. We're going to say _fruits_list.html.erb. Then in this file, all we want to do is say ul, so it's going to be some sort of a list, and then we want fruits.each.do fruit, and we actually want to link to the fruit.name, but it's not going to be the name, it's going to be the title. And it's very important here that if we don't add data, turbo_frame is going to be equal to _top. If we didn't have this part here, we wouldn't be able to go to a new page because this whole partial is inside of a turbo frame tag. So if you're ever in a turbo frame tag and you want to go to a new page, you must add data turbo frame is equal to _top so that you can actually go there. Otherwise it's going to be expecting you to go to another turbo frame tag. And so we want to say at the bottom here, if fruits.empty, then what we want to do is essentially just say no fruits found, and we want to say end, and then that's it. So now we're going to go back to our application, refresh, and I get an error. We need to say empty with a question mark, and then refresh. So obviously there's no fruits found because we have no fruits in the database, so we need to go to our Rails console. So Rails C, stop the server and run Rails C. C stands for console. Then inside of here we can just say fruit.create, and we can say title, and then we just need to add a few fruits. So I'm going to say kiwi. Then I'm just going to do the same thing, and I'm going to say orange, and then the same thing, and just for demonstration purposes I'll say apple. Then the same thing, we can just say pomegranate, and then we'll do it one more time, and this time we might say banana. Then we're going to exit Rails S, and then we're just going to run simple, going to add simple CSS to the application just because I would like to. and then we're going to add the minified version to the application.html.erb. So add that, and then we can go back to our application and see if it's working. So as you can see, we have our fruits. We can search for fruits by name. When I input in the form, nothing actually happens. I have to press enter for something to happen. So that's not exactly what we want. We want it to input on the search when I input on the form. So the problem is when we go to the form at index.html.erb where it says data, instead of saying search target, we need to say action. And then once we have that, it should actually start working. And so now when I actually input anything into the form, it actually does filter these results, and it obviously happens automatically. So when there's no fruits found, it says no fruits found. So that is a simple search filter using Hotwire in Ruby on Rails. I don't think it was that difficult to implement. Realistically, it was only a few lines of code, and we use stimulus to do so. All the stimulus controller really does is just submit the form on input, and that's all it does. And then when the form is submitted, because it's on the index page, obviously it's going to this action, and then we're returning a partial. So really quite simple stuff, and that's very good. Now I want to show you how to. Now the next thing that we're going to do is quite simple again. It's just going to be creating this functionality on screen right now, doing tabs so we can alter between tabs. So the first thing I'm going to do is just go back to index.html.erb, and then I'm just going to get rid of this fruits div, and also get rid of this link to new fruit. Okay, so to create this functionality, what we need is like 6 divs. 3 of them is going to be like 3 links, and then 3 of them are going to be the actual content, just like we have here. So we need 6 divs. So we're going to start by creating the first div. We're going to say div, and then we're going to say data controller is going to be to tab, because that's the name of the controller that we're going to create in stimulus. This data controller corresponds to the stimulus controller name. Then this is going to be the parent div. So we're going to say inside of here we're going to create 3 more divs. So we're going to say div role is equal to, or sorry, tab list, and then we need the class to be tabs, just for CSS purposes. Then inside of here we're going to create 3 links. So we're going to say A, and then we're going to close this, and then inside of here we need to add quite a bit of data. So we're going to say href is equal to hashtag, role is equal to tab, data action is equal to select tab or tab select, and then the data tab is going to be equal to tab 1, and then the text is just going to be tab 1. Then we should just be able to copy this link 2 more times, and then we can just change everything to 3. So select tab, and it's going to be 2 here, and it's going to be 2 here. So that's that. Now we need to actually create the content. So we're going to say div class is equal to tab panels, and then we're simply going to say div role is equal to tab panel 1, then we're going to say data tab target is equal to panel 1, then data tab is equal to tab 1. Then we're just going to add a turbo frame tag, so turbo underscore frame underscore tag, and we're going to say tab 1 underscore frame, and we're going to say do. And then inside of here we're just going to say end, and then we can say the content for P. This is the content of tab 1. So then we just want to create this 2 more times while changing all the numbers to whatever. So we want to say 3 or 2 there, 2, 2, 2, panel 2, tab 2. Then we just want to do the same thing, 3, or we can actually just change, we can do it a little bit faster by alt left clicking, and then we can change all of them at once. So there we go. And then now that we've done that, we should have some tabs. And as you can see, we do. And while we're here, I'm just going to add some styles. So I'm going to say styling. And we just want to say .tabs A. So the links of the tabs, we're going to say padding. We'll just use Copilot for this. And then .tabs A active. And then .tab panels div. And we're going to say padding 1 rem, border 1 pixel, border. And then we can say margin top 0.5 rem. Now that we've done that, we should have some stuff. And then what we need to do is go to JavaScript controllers, and then inside of here we're going to create a new controller, and we're going to call it tab underscore controller.js. And then I'm just going to copy the code from the search controller just to make it slightly easier. Then in connect, what we need to say is this.show tab, this.tab targets 0. Then we need to set some values here. So we're going to say static values, we're going to say tab and panel. Then our first function is going to be select. Select event. We're going to say event.prevent default, so stop the page from refreshing. This.show tab. Then we're going to say show tab. And then we basically just want to do what Copilot is saying. And we want to say tab.classlist.add active. And then we want to say this.panel targets, panel targets dot for each panel panel dot hidden is equal to panel dot dataset dot tab dot dataset dot tab. Then I'm just going to change this to select tab, and we're going to see if it's working. And we just need to change the name of our function in tab controller to select tab. So we can just say select tab here. And then if we go to our application, and then down here in index.html, where we have our divs, what we need to do is actually change it. We don't need to have any numbers in here. I don't know what I was thinking. All we need to say is the data tab needs to have a number, but the actual TurboFrame tag also needs to have a number, but that's it. So then just include your numbers on that, but not on the role or on the data tab target. Then let's go back to the application. And then we just need to add hidden to all of these divs. So hidden. And then after that, all you need to do is make sure that this data controller tab is actually encompassing all of these divs so that we have access to the tab controller. So then make sure that you're not adding another ending div tag before the end of this data controller. Make sure that this includes all of these tabs down here, and then after that we can see that it is working, and when we click a link it shows the correct tab. Alright guys, that's the end of this video. I was going to create this open modal as well, but I just realized that I did that in the last video, so there's no point of doing it in this one. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm trying to hit 10k subscribers by the end of this year, by 2026, so please subscribe and make that happen. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, click like, and I'll see you in the next one.